Greetings everyone and welcome to episode 4 of our fall 2016 virtual office hours. My name is John Fia. I teach American history here at Messiah College and chair the history department. Our producer Abby Blakeney, as usual, behind the camera. Hi Abby. And we have the Founding Fathers with us. The Pez Dispensers are back as we are discussing our course this semester in the American Revolution. And going over some of the things that we're covering in class. We've covered a lot of ground this week. It's hard to really discuss everything and all the documents and all the readings that we did. So I've been trying to just select a few things here and there to sort of give you some glimpse as to what's happening in the class. Today in class, we actually talked a little bit about that famous phrase from the 1765 and the Stamp Act, no taxation without representation. And you begin to see this phrase emerge right around 1765 at the time in which the Parliament passes the Stamp Act and the colonies are forced to deal with this direct tax on paper goods. They have to purchase a stamp in order to abide by the law, and this is a way of the British government to raise revenue in the colonies after the French and Indian War. But again, one of the protests you hear is this idea of no taxation without representation. What exactly does that phrase mean? There's a common misperception here that phrase means that somehow the Parliament, the colonists wanted representation in Parliament. In other words, we're not represented in Parliament and Parliament's taxing us and we demand a representative there. In fact, that was not the case at all, as our documents for this week laid out. One of the documents that we read was Patrick Henry's speech, or actually his resolves, in the House of Burgesses in Virginia during the Stamp Act crisis, and he's trying to make an argument as to why the Stamp Act is a violation of British liberties and the liberties that all British people upheld, which are rooted in their colonial charters. So Henry, we point out, is making a sort of historical argument here. But in the process, he says this: resolved, that the taxation of the people by themselves, or by persons chosen by themselves to represent them, who can only know what taxes the people are able to bear, or the easiest method of raising them, and must themselves be affected by every tax laid on the people, is the only security against the burdensome taxation, and the distinguishing characteristic of British freedom, without which the ancient Constitution cannot exist. He later goes on in this document to say that the General Assembly of this colony, meaning the House of Burgesses, together with His Majesty or his substitutes, have in their representatives' capacity the only exclusive right and power to lay taxes and imposts on the inhabitants of this colony. So in other words, Henry is suggesting that British liberty, if it's going to be applied, needs to be applied locally. It needs to be applied by the various colonial legislatures, and only they have should have the power to tax, because they know the local situation, the local circumstances, and what kind of taxes their people are able to pay or to bear. So in some ways they're not asking for a representative to Parliament as much as they're asking for local control over their own over taxes in their own assemblies. This is confirmed then in 1765, another document that we looked at. This is confirmed by the Stamp Act Congress, which meets in New York to protest against the Stamp Act. Again, this is in 1765. Here, 9 of the 13 colonies are present. And there, in point 4 of their rights of the colonists, the members of the Stamp Act Congress say that the people of these colonies are not, and from their local circumstances cannot, be represented in the House of Commons in Great Britain. So here is an assertion again that it's very impractical to have a representative from the colonies in the House of Commons in London. Rather, we want taxation to take place locally. We want our assemblies to issue taxes, and we're represented, of course, within these colonial assemblies. So this is the colonial interpretation of British liberties and especially as those British liberties are related to the famous quote, "no taxation without representation." The representation, again, is representation in the colonial assemblies, not in Parliament. So little context there on a very famous saying that we often know as it relates to the American Revolution. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on the Virtual Office Hours.